the U.S. government just needs to be more efficient in how it operates. And one of the inefficiencies is, no, hang on, that's not the question. My question is, what do you think they're seeing? What do you think they are seeing?
I understand that, but America is not a Christian nation, and it was founded on the idea of freedom of religion. That also means freedom from religion.
I mean, I personally don't agree that it has to be like one or the other. That They don't have to, just because somebody else is getting protections doesn't mean that they aren't, for example. But I mean, if you're...
By the way, those of you who are really supportive of LGBTQ rights, you got to be able to answer this question. Wait, which side of your family? Your dad's side or your dad's side?
Yeah. My dad's side.
All right. I was recently listening to a story on a podcast or somewhere. I don't know where it was. But the folks on the podcast were talking about the shifting of power of people in the United States who are, or the growing numbers of people, or maybe not the growing numbers, maybe the numbers have always been the same, but people who are starting to speak up about the idea that, you know, we need to roll back this LGBTQ plus. The plus, by the way, for those who don't know, is just all the other letters that represent different groups, right? And so it's easiest just to say queer, and that just kind of encompasses everything. But just power. Like, hey, you know what? This it's just gotten to be too much. And this particular group of people and supporters and so on, it's just gotten a little too much power. We need to roll it back a little bit. It's gone too far. So one thing is this Project 2025 that was, you know, put together in the past several years. A lot of conservative, identified conservative. I don't know what that means because I've never had two conservatives in a room and have them agree on more than about, 20% of what they were talking about. Same with liberals, doesn't matter. So, but this Project 25 is a bunch of folks who say, you know what, we need to do a few things. And one is that we need, the U.S. government just needs to be more efficient in how it operates. And one of the inefficiencies is when you have a rollover of government, you have a rollover of lots of people. And things just get, the vast majority of people in the government are the same. But, you have different directions and different ideas about what to do and how to do it. And so we really just need to bring some coherence to that. And so one thing that we need to do is give more power to the executive branch, because people elect a president because they see a larger vision for what the country should be, in this country anyway. And so the president should have much more power to carry out the will of the people who voted for that person. Okay? Makes sense? Kind of makes sense. Sociologically speaking, makes a lot of sense. Now, if you want to dig into judicial and legal issues, that's a whole different matter. But as a sociologist, I would be like, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. So one issue that people are talking about is the LGBTQ or queer rights and protections. And that we need to we've gone too far in this way. And so we need, first off, we need to have a biblically based definition of marriage and family. That's the first thing. Again, I don't know what that means. If I put two Christians in a room and say, or Christian theologians, and say, tell us what that means, they're going to agree on probably about 30 or 40, who knows, maybe 50% of what they say. But when you dig down into the weeds, they're going to have some different ideas about what that means. And we need to roll back some protections. It's just, why is it that we've gone so far in the protections of people in the queer community? It's like, why is that? Why aren't we protecting people who are left-handed? That's something that people, they can't change as part of who they are. And I don't know, like in this classroom, in these rows right here and over on that side and on the far side, all the arm rests are for left-handed people. And maybe what we need to do is, and a lot of left-handed people say man, I can't get into one of those seats, so we need protections for left-handed people. And we need you're not allowed to sit in that seat if you're not left-handed. And if you do, X, Y, or Z will happen. I don't know, why not other groups? So we've gone a little far. So these folks in Project 2025 are saying like, yeah, we've got to roll some of this back. And for example, these are just a few of the things, but we need to direct some of the health and human services resources to programs that see the family. So these are programs that are for families in the United States that see the family as one man, one woman, and not get carried away with all these complex definitions of families. And that's how the U.S. should be. One man, one woman. And so when we organize how we spend our tax dollars, it should be really to promote the idea that a family is one man and one woman. And then we need to also rescind some of the prohibitions against a lot of things, but among them, I just picked one out, like same-sex adoption and foster parenting. Gay couples, lesbian couples, you can't foster parent. And in some states, in some areas, municipalities and states are like, yeah, that's not a good idea. Or some organizations, you're a Christian-based foster parenting organization who believes that a family is one man, one woman, and that we should have this biblical prescription for how to operate. And the state comes along and says, hey, man, you got to let this gay couple adopt or foster parent a child. And they're like, that goes completely against our beliefs. And the state says, that doesn't matter. You have to do that. And so Project 2025 is saying, maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's not what we ought to be doing. Maybe that's not the way to create the good society. And so you can imagine all of the arguments and the thoughts, the things that are going into this. It's very complicated. Okay, we good? Now, we're going to have a conversation about this. I'm really curious about what you think about this Project 2025 and what they're saying, that we need to kind of, we've maybe taken some of this too far and maybe we need to roll it back. No, hang on, that's not the question. My question is, what do you think they're seeing? What do you think they are seeing?
It seems to me sometimes like when we have advances in equality, some people take that as rights being taken away from them in a way. Like they see other people gaining equality who haven't had it before and imagine that that's taking something away from them, which I don't really understand.
It may not just be equality, but when you expand, sometimes when you expand something for some group of people, you lose it for somebody else. Here, for example, in this case, if I'm Christian, so I'm going to put this up there, or Muslim, whatever, if I'm just feeling like, hey, my God is telling me this is the way we need to run our society, and I'm really invested in that, and someone comes, and we come along, and we're like, yeah, I got that, but we're actually going to do this other thing, that's how you'd feel it.
I understand that, but America is not a Christian nation, and it was founded on the idea of freedom of religion. That also means freedom from religion.
I think that they see things like gay marriage and like the increasing like legalistic wins for LGBTQ people, and stuff like, hey, the increased visibility of trans people, and like stuff like, hey, you shouldn't say slurs, and stuff like that is organized under what they see as like things that are progress that's bad for them. So I see it as like a sort of waiver for retrenchment against that. So they look at all these developments and they're like, this society has gone too far. The radical left is coming to break down biblical marriage, and they're like, we need to take a stand against all of that.
Okay, all right.
I think they just kind of see like the progressive movement has like been so focused on like DEI initiatives and like making sure that everybody is treated exactly the same, and they see it as kind of unfair that certain people might have like more rights, or more rights, like a growing cultural shift towards their rights than they had before, and so they kind of see that as unfair.
Yeah, what would make that unfair? Give me a scenario in which that would be unfair.
I mean, I personally don't agree that it has to be like one or the other. That They don't have to, just because somebody else is getting protections doesn't mean that they aren't. for example. But I mean, if you're going along with the scenario, maybe like there's a Christian adoption agency that is forced to, give a kid up for adoption to a gay couple. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's in your situation, like a same-sex couple or a heterosexual couple is then losing out on that adoption.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you could say that. But presumably you would could then argue, well, but there would be another couple, but well, there isn't a couple. Obviously, the child wouldn't be available for adoption if there was another couple. But nonetheless,
yeah, and like obviously, there's a lot of kids to adopt in the United States. It's not like there's zero after them.
Right. How does the expansion of LGBT rights? How could you argue that it harms the public good? How could it harm the public good? See, by the way, those of you who are really supportive of LGBTQ rights, you got to be able to answer this question. Like, you can't say, like, oh, this Project 25, these people are a bunch of idiots and so on. That doesn't fly. They're making an argument. So how could you argue that it harms the public good?
I don't know. I guess a lot of the people that are against queer rights are probably come at it from a religious perspective. Mm-hmm. So, and I do understand that. I was not raised religious, but like, I understand the idea of like, if your religion tells you that someone's going to hell for this, you want to help them not go to hell, I guess. I understand that, but I don't believe in that religion, so.
Okay, but people do. Okay, so, but now you're onto something. So you have this idea that you're building a society around a godly, around the providence of God, right? And God wants something for God's people. And God doesn't want this. And so therefore, it's like, in a way, it's harmful to the whole society then, to everybody. I mean, I don't know what that means. I mean, God's going to have a reckoning. Well, that's what people say. Some people say that.
Yeah, and I will defend your right to believe that all day, but it doesn't mean I have to believe it. And America was founded on the right that I don't have to believe that.
Yep, okay. Yep, that's cool, but you want to understand it.
Yeah, I want to hear people out. I want to know why they think the way they do. And like I said, it's your right to believe that, and I'm not going to try to stop you, but I don't think it should be forced on me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's exactly what people would say. Like, I don't think I should be forced to accept all of these ideologies about.
I think that's different, because I'm not forcing you to be gay.
No, but you're forcing. No, but. Right. Well, you know what?
You can just not be gay.
Well, hang on.
That's your right.
We're going to have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
But people think that, hey, but look, in schools, when you start talking about being gay or queer issues starting at a really young age in schools, what you're doing is you're opening up the idea in the minds of young kids. And when they're particularly vulnerable to hear that, and then it's like, oh man, right? So you're not forcing it, but you're opening up the greater possibility and like,
Yes, if I had to make this argument, I would say that people often think of the ideal nation as like one that's like uniform, like homogenous and cohesive. And so being like queer people able to live freely means that your society is less homogenous and it's like less unified.
Yeah, for sure. No, you have. So here's this movement, the trans movement, the queer movement. It's like people have just gone 100 miles an hour on the issues. And then suddenly saying, like, if you don't think this, then you're a homophobe, or it's like you're a racist, or whatever, right? And that's very divisive. So people can make the argument. It's like, yeah, man, it's very dividing. Yeah, huh.
I guess another argument that I see people make is that it's a social good for people to have kids, and queer people are selfishly not having kids.
Yeah, okay. Queer people are selfishly not having kids. Okay, Jack, this is where you come in, right? All right. What's your story, pal?
So I have 2 gay dads.
So queer people are having kids. All right.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And are you the biological child of one of them?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you're okay. So you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a twin sister and a younger sister.
So when people say queer people aren't having kids, we need to have kids. Do you have any thought on that before I ask you the next question?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to provide any data, but I feel like gay families do have children, maybe not at the same rate as heterosexual couples, but I feel like I know plenty of families that have two of like the same-sex parents and stuff like that. Like, I don't think it necessarily changes people's opinion on wanting to have kids. I think there's plenty of gay men who want to have kids eventually with, a partner, either through like IVF or adoption or something like that.
Hey, how much time have you spent really kind of thinking about what? So that we started out with this issue of, hey, put yourself in the shoes of Project 2025. Okay, how much time have you spent thinking about, what do people really want? Because they don't think they don't want more of you. They want less of you. I mean, you're fine. This guy, he's awesome, right? And he's a twin. He looks exactly like my nephew, so that makes him doubly awesome. But like, how much time have you spent trying to think about, like, what are people afraid of?
I mean, yeah. So I was raised in like rural Ohio, and a lot of my family was definitely from this like Project 2025 side of the political scale, and obviously that's been problematic throughout my life, but I see it as just like a lot of not understanding.
How has it been problematic?
Well, like growing up, my one side of my family is not always very accepting of like my dad having children with a man.
Wait, which side of your family? Your dad's side or your dad's side? Yeah.
My dad's side.
All right. So one of your dad's side is not accepting of him.
They are now, but it was like, I mean, my aunt would give us Bibles until we were like 5 years old.
Oh, I got you. Okay. All right. How many people do you encounter in your life that you feel like want to roll things back?
Honestly, not a lot. I feel like most people that I've met here and back home are very like, want to help people and want to like deeper understand each other. I feel like once they get, like, a lot of people meet me and they may not know that I have gay parents or something like that, but then they'll be like, oh, that's cool. And then it's like, it's not really an issue. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter to me.
It's not cool anymore. It just
not nearly as cool.
Yeah, right. It just is, right? It's like, okay. Hey, Michael, how about you? How many people do you meet in your day-to-day life, either up here or back home or whatever, that you feel like want to roll things back?
I've never had someone like explicitly tell me that they want to roll things back, but I have met people that I suspect would. It's kind of like a vibe thing, because often it's like impolite or like seen as rude to say that, or to like have
to come out and say like, hey, I want to roll things back.
Yeah. So if you think that someone has like extreme political beliefs, or like has some sort of political views, if you like pay some sort of attention, you can kind of tell.